on these conversations, and you're the first band from Seattle that I've done, and I kind of wanted to make sure that I talked to you guys as quick as possible. So you are deathCAVE, and if you could just go really quick and kind of introduce yourselves, and then we'll kind of go from there. Okay.
Cool.
So how about you, Tony? You go first.
Yeah. That's Tony.
My name's Tony. I play guitar and do vocals halfway through the same that Freiburger does.
All right, Freiburger.
I'm Freiburger. I play bass and I sing in deathCAVE.
And Benny.
I am Benny, and I am the drummer.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you for taking the time, too.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. I was thinking back when I was getting ready to do this, and it was interesting because it dawned on me right away. I went back through the pictures and then just looked at listened to the tunes. You were part of a bill for the last show that I saw right before COVID-19 hit.
And that was a super fun show.
You know what? That was an incredible show.
Yeah.
And it hung over the show. We could kind of see the tidal wave coming, I think. Everyone knew that things were going to change, and that gave that night an even more special feel to it, because it was like all of us, I think, were like, we have no fucking idea if we're going to be back here again.
Like there's no tomorrow, for sure.
And it came through in the performance. So I'm just going to throw out 2 to 3 words that, for me, kind of describe that show. And then I'd really like to just turn the floor over to you guys and just talk about your influences, your backstory. I'm just interested in the journey of how deathCAVE came to be. But the 3 words, when I was thinking about that show, the obvious one is heaviness. You guys are an incredibly heavy band. That's the kind of music I love, so I really dug. I see you guys every chance I get. And if you want a heavy band, this is a heavy fucking band. But the 2 other words are joy. There's a sense of joy when you guys play live. You see it on your faces. You see it on the interaction that you have with the crowd. And then the last one is, I would say, love. Because I get that this is a real passion for the 3 of you. And I think that comes through in the music. And that's how I wanted to have a chat with you today. So that's the way of me introducing you. I know you go on somebody's Bandcamp page and I always have fun. I scroll down to the bottom and I look for the little descriptors that people choose for their own music. And it's always a difficult fucking choice to make, I know. There's some stoner elements there. There's some doom elements, but there's a whole lot of stuff. I hear Celtic Frost in there. I hear a lot of stuff going on. So I don't know if you guys have thought who wants to go first, but I'd just like to turn the floor over and have you guys talk about the band, the journey, how you met, and all of that. So the floor is yours.
Well, thank you for the kind words, first of all.
Yeah.
And I think we all agree. Those are 3 descriptive words that I personally find the same between us and what I want to myself show and do in our performance. And I think we're all kind of bonded on that same page easily, which just made everything so smooth and quick and easy for us to gain our momentum together. So that was really cool to hear that from somebody else. But yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
What was that, Tony? You got out.
Add to that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, how we came to be. The band started a little bit over a year ago. I had met Tony when he was kind of just visiting Seattle. He had just moved here not that long before we had started the band from Salinas, California. And we had met outside of a show, and his current roommate, Wes, who plays in the band Eris, he's like, oh, you guys don't know each other. You guys should probably meet. And so we introduced, and we were just kind of shooting the shit. And it was just like, I don't know, like one of those cosmic connections where you meet someone and you're like, man, you're really fucking cool. Like, I
So
really like
you felt it right away. You felt it right away.
And I was like, kind of in the back of my head, you know, when I meet someone who's like that, who also like plays music, and it's just like, you know, it's like immediately like, oh fuck, man, I kind of want to play music with this guy, you know, like.
That was actually the first night I actually arrived in Seattle. When I moved overnight from Salinas, drove 18 hours, and had an Airbnb, but found out actually Quicksand was playing at Nemo's that night when I arrived. And I was like, oh, I'm so tired, but I can't miss Quicksand. I love Quicksand. So ended up going and ran into my roommate now, who was a friend, who introduced me to Freiburger. And like you said, instantly just bonding outside in between bands or whatever, kind of had this connection of like, not just friendship, but we're both artistic and can bring something kind of unique and different at the time. And so we just kind of went with it.
And he's brown skinned and he's got long hair and tattoos and, you know, very attractive, you know, which is, you know, qualities that I find very attractive in humans.
He's sexy. We can just stick with the word sexy and we can go on from there.
But yeah, I mean, we didn't immediately start, you know, we were playing, I still had my old band and he was potentially going to play in that band, but then, you know, I parted ways with that act, and so we ended up started jamming, and it didn't work out with our first drummer we had jammed with, but then I had this really good talk with Benny outside of El Corazon at a show. I can't even remember what show we were at, but just kind of talking about, you know, like not partying as hard as we did in our 20s and like really kind of focusing more on music and, you know, taking care, you know, of ourselves a bit more. And like, you know, I was like, man, like it was just a really good and positive conversation we ended up having. And when we ended up looking for another drummer, I sent a message to Benny and asked if he had wanted to be in the band. And yeah, I mean, it took us a long time to get there, but he was at the Apache deathCAVE, which is eventually how we got the name for the band. But
it was what we needed, though, because right away it clicked.
Yeah, absolutely.
So talk to me about maybe that first time that the three of you got together as a unit, and you're saying that you could feel it instantaneously. Did Freiburger and Tony, did you already bring a few riffs to that session, or did you just go in with nothing and start to pound some shit out? Just talk about that first session and what it was that made you go, oh, this is gonna fucking work right here.
Yeah, so I mean, it had been maybe a couple months of jamming out, Freiburger and I, with again a first drummer, and when we realized it wasn't gonna work and we wanted to try jamming with Benny, we did have some songs and some riffs, but I kind of didn't want to bring any of that energy. And I don't want to say whether it was negative or positive or whatever, but just to kind of start fresh. You know, I kind of wanted to bring a new uniqueness to whatever riffs we already priorly had and kind of rewrite them again. So we're kind of starting at least a little bit fresh, but we did have a bit of a foundation from jamming out at least for a couple months and bonding over what style or creativities or whatever. So I'm assuming, and I hope that helped out. And I'd love to hear what Benny thinks, since he was the one that was the first comer when Fry and I were already, you know, bonding together. So
yeah, what was it? What was it like, Benny, during that initial kind of just jam session from your point of view?
Well, it kind of helped at first too, because Freiburger was like, hey, learn how to play this song, Wolverine Blues. So we had like that cover song so we could actually start jamming together first. So it wasn't just like us there, like, I don't know what we're going to do. Like we had a little, you know, a little something to work with. But I, like, as soon as I started hearing our own original riffs, I was like, this is the shit. I love this so much. And it just continue to get better and better. Like we really write music well together, so it was really great to be a part of that just right off from the beginning.
Absolutely. You guys recorded or I don't know when it was recorded, but it was released. I think I'm going to have the month right. I think in April 2019, you guys released a self-titled demo. Is that correct?
I think it was August, but it might have been April. I don't know.
It started with an A. That's decent enough research on my part, Freiburger. Come on. So
I don't know. It's not like I'm like coming at you with actually.
That's a good point. You should be the one that knows. That's an excellent point. So talk about that. That's a 3-song. I'll call it an EP, but for lack of a better term, it's a 3-song self-titled demo that you put out on Bandcamp. I know from what I recall, it was recorded and mixed by a guy from Seattle, if you want to mention while you're describing the experience. Maybe talk about that. And then I want to talk about how things were ramping up, right? We had a really great show coming to Northwest Terra Fest. We were getting all excited, and then the shit hit the fan, and oh, fuck. And that kind of put you guys in a situation where you had to, I think you're trying to think outside of the box about how the fuck are we going to approach this. So let's talk about that demo and then kind of progress along that arc, if you don't mind. And I don't know which one of you 3 wants to take it up first.
I will. How about me? Well, yeah, we recorded with Tad Doyle, who's definitely a Northwest legend. I mean, more than the Northwest, though. Like, if you like heavy music, especially in the grunge era, like, you should know the name Tad Doyle, you know? Especially up until now. It's not like he's stopped playing music or doing awesome things. You know, the brothers with Sonic Cloth.
The instrumental stuff that he's putting out is fucking mind-blowing.
His soundscapes and stuff are absolutely awesome. Yeah,
incineration ceremony is
and that's what I mean. He's like stayed like there, and like I met him at the Comet Tavern, which used to be a bar in Seattle that had shows like almost every night of the week, and it was just a place that you went if you wanted to, I guess, be a scumbag in public and not be judged. You know, it was like a great place for, you know, your angsty 20s to, you know, but it was also like people would go crazy, you know, like people with empty trash cans and throw it around in the place while bands played. It's, you know, like actually crowd surf, even though there isn't very much room or anything, you know. It was just a beautiful place.
Yeah. The beauty of the chaos at some of the shows.
I'm all stoned now.
No, me too. I did too. But no, to be honest with you, that's as an outsider moving into this scene, right? I've spent the bulk of my time in fucking central Maine, kind of Stephen King country. You know, the shows out here.
About Pat Doyle. God damn it! I was like, where the fuck was I going with this?
I'm filling time. I'm filling time, brother.
God damn it! All right. I'm sorry. Now I cut you off.
Go!
Anyway, to get back to it, that's where I first met Tad, and it was surreal to just see such like a legendary figure just kind of like kicking it and hanging out, you know, and like such a place. And, you know, I had recently, just before that, seen his band, Brothers Sonic Cloth, play with a band called Midian at Corazon, which was, I think, Graceland at the time, when Midian turned into Yob, you know. It was like, so for me, coming from Alaska, being introduced and seeing that heavy music that Tad has done, he's always been an awesome figure in the Northwest. So to record an album with him was really special. And we call it a demo and stuff, but it's like, and it's only 3 songs, but it's like 21 minutes. And I feel like we put a lot of heart and passion into those few songs. It was the beginning of the band, you know, our formation of who we are, and it was so awesome to work with Tad at his studio, which is actually in his house here in just south of Seattle here at Witch Ape Studio, and it was really awesome to work with him, and it was such a cool experience too, man. We were really happy with how the tape came out that we made with him.
That's why I struggled to figure out whether to call it an EP or not, because like you said, it's 3 songs, but these are songs that are, the word epic is a little over the top, but they're longer songs.
Behind me.
Say that again?
Epic's a good word,
Yeah,
I guess.
we'll stick with that. You know, there's a real sonic journey going on there. It's just not 2 minutes in your face kind of stuff. It has those sections, but then there's a hell of a lot more going on. Talk to me about the creative process, and maybe this is a good time to talk about the album that you have worked on at this point. And maybe I'll turn it over to Tony or Benny. Talk to me about just kind of the creative process behind this new release and how you approached it as a band and where you went from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the things that we kind of try to pride ourselves in the most, for lack of a better term, but to be able to write, you know, like aggressive, heavy, sometimes fast riffs and music while incorporating, you know, a lot of melodies and melodic, mellower, slower parts that aren't necessarily, you know, just your average like slow palm muting, you know, like doom or sludge breakdown, but that have or break away into kind of a journey as we might write them as, you know, we're smoking weed or a little high and we're like just jam on it for, there's been times where we'll just jam out improvised for 20 minutes nonstop, and then we'll kind of gather what we thought in our head sounded cool for that long or good enough for that long, and try to incorporate that into the aggressive and heavy and fast. And, you know, I grew up as the rest of us listening to, you know, punk rock and hardcore, you know, since like mid 90s. So I still have a lot of that inside of me, playing fast and aggressive, but I definitely want to do a lot of the journey stuff speaks to me a lot. So I definitely wanted to try to find a way to incorporate a little bit of both styles while making them work together and blend in together. And I think it took a while to kind of get there. And I think, as we were talking about earlier, when Benny came in, him also coming from that similar background, it kind of clicked and made everything a lot easier and smoother to be able to incorporate something that could have potentially been a little bit more difficult to do if we didn't have such a bond in our writing together. I would say you would agree, maybe, Benny?
Oh yeah, totally.
Totally.
Excellent answer.
Word, brother, word. So talk to me. Like, who did you record the new album or the tracks with? What are the plans for this that you've had to kind of readjust? And that's where maybe we also switch over. Well, we'll talk about the recording and then we'll switch from there to COVID. So talk about who you recorded it with and that kind of stuff.
The recording for the new album was a fantastic experience. It was recorded in Anacortes and correct me if these are wrong facts, but at an old abandoned church that was turned into a recording studio.
It wasn't abandoned, but it was an old church. Yeah.
That got taken over.
But that has such a way better sound to it. Abandoned church sounds really fucking cool.
It was old, abandoned, and haunted and everything.
Haunted. It was haunted.
There are corpses actually on the floor of this church.
So the whole place was converted into a recording studio, and we just packed up for a full week and went there, stayed the night there, and just basically lived isolated, which ironically enough, the next thing we're going to talk about is that, but yeah. We were isolated a whole week, just the three of us in an old church, recording our full length that will be coming out. But that experience alone was something I've never done before. It's always been, you know, you show up at 8, you work the day, and then you can still go out or go back home or go party, drink, whatever you want to do. And so the experience was different, but I think it really shows in the recording and in the music and in the creativity that, you know, we definitely try to step outside of our element and bubble, but in a way where it really worked out. So I was really stoked. Just the experience alone of doing that to me meant a lot. I thought that was really cool.
Absolutely. Somebody else tell me about that perspective, your perspective on this process.
It was always a dream of mine to actually do a destination recording of such. You know, I've only done, as Tony had said, you know, show up and you record for the day and like that's it. I mean, I at one point did have a recording studio in my basement, but it's not like, you know, that's your house. You know, it's like that's really easy to get, you know, fall back into your own element.
This isn't special.
So it was really great experience. You know, we had gone up with Ben Vrelen, who is a musician in Helmsley, and he makes amplifiers, Vrelen amplifiers here in Seattle, and he owns Bar House, which is a bar I work at here in Seattle. And he had just gotten back into recording, and he knows heavy music really well. So I figured it would be a really cool idea to take him up with us to Anacortes to record us and be able to capture, you know, it's like in those old church, you're able to get really cool, big sounds, big room sounds there. So having someone who's really smart in the department of capturing heavy, big sounds, I think it worked really, really well. And I was really happy with the whole experience. You know, I love these guys. Like it brought us closer, I think, too, you know?
Oh, totally.
How was it from a drummer's perspective, Benny, the recording process for this new one?
You know, it was great. But you know, drums go first. So it was basically like the first 2 days were all drums. And then the last days I was just kind of, you know, I was moral support. But it was very, it was excellent. My drums sounded massive in there. I wanted to start recording more. Like I wasn't ready to leave. But I think next time I might want to get an Airbnb or something like that. But you know, it was really great.
You have to stay at the church if it's haunted.
Yeah.
Slightly or whatever.
That's half the experience, apparently.
You have the option to stay at the church. You're going to stay at that church. They were recording an album. It might as well be spooky, you know?
Yeah.
Except the part about that though is that like you guys smoke a lot more weed than I do. So at the end of the night, you guys passed out and crashed out super quick, where I was up, like eyes wide open with the creepiest sounds because of just like the building settling or pipes and everything, and in pitch dark for hours. I was just like, oh my God, I'm terrified. And you guys are just like out, passed out. And so like, I think I heard a lot more things that I just probably made up in my head that I thought it was something else.
So Tony, you may have been the only one who actually saw the fucking ghosts.
I mean, who knows? I definitely at least heard a lot of weird, creepy things in the middle of the night.
There was when the doors swung open though. That was a little crazy.
There were some experiences. Yeah, that was creepy.
Yeah, and the confession booth. You know, that place felt crazy.
Yeah,
you know,
I refused confession booth. Yeah.
What the hell? Okay, you got to say more than that. Tell me more.
Well, I don't really like believe in supernatural stuff, and for some reason, I didn't even know there was confessional booths. And so Benny's like, "Oh yeah, no, they're right over here." And apparently, you guys had read up or heard more about this place than I did. And one of the things that was posted or said that they just feel creepy or they feel it's a weird feeling by the confessional booths. And me being like, oh, it's fine. No joke, like not even over exaggerating. The second I walked over there and we like opened the door to the confessional booth, I just walked away. I just got this like weird, like goosebumpy feeling. But you know, I don't know what it was, but yeah, I was just like, nope, I'm cool.
Okay. And so at the end, we're all finishing like making sure that our takes are good or whatever, and we're all upstairs, and there's only 2 doors to get in there, and there's like no windows, and they're bolted shut, you know, so there's like no real draft that could get through there. And while we're upstairs that last day, the doors just swing open hard enough to hit the wall, like, and then swing back and forth a few more times, you know, because it's an old goddamn door, you know, it's like really creaky, you know, there's no sneaking through that door, you know.
Absolutely, you can hear it from a mile
so it's
away.
just like, and so I was like, what? I was like, it hit me, so I ran downstairs, and it's just like, you know, like what the fuck, like who's here, you know, like. But yeah, there's nothing. That was the only weird thing, you know, and I had hit up Nick from Sumac, who was recorded there as well, and I was like, did you guys have any creepy experience? You know, it's like, what do you know about this hauntedness? And yeah, they apparently had a shadow figure where they were talking to someone who they thought was there, but they weren't there. But that's about it.
Oh, weird.
But you feel something, you know, it's like, you know, I'm not like one to believe shit of, you know, but I do spook easy. So I mean,
yeah, if anything,
I love to get stoned and I'll get in my mind, you know.
If anything, it's the
you know,
it's the basis for a short story or novel. Actually, it's a
absolutely.
You know, there's some cool shit right there. So you recorded this. We were ramping up, and like I said, we had that show. And I can remember before COVID hit, we're building to that show, and we've got Old Dirty Buzzard, we've got Old Iron, we've got Year of the Cobra was the headliner. We had deathCAVE there, and as we got to that show, it felt like things were going to ramp up, and then holy shit, this tidal wave of bizarreness hits us all.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just interested in knowing what the fuck I've been talking to people. But I don't know them beyond seeing them on a screen in many ways, right? But I actually have talked to you guys, and I see your shows all the time when I can. What the fuck was this like for you as a band?
I was really concerned going into that show, and I was telling everybody that because some news had already been coming out of, you know, something big going on or happening. So I was really concerned, thinking, not necessarily thinking what the future holds, but that a lot of people were going to not go or stay in, because that was when this first start of like kind of maybe not go out as much or be careful when you go out, you know. And then, you know, like the wash your hands thing was a lot bigger than first. So I was really concerned and worried that it was going to be kind of a bust of a show. But of course, you know, anytime we need to rock out, we're going to rock out anyway. So, you know, luckily, as you said, to my surprise, saying that, it ended up being a massive, beautiful, you know, and I think nearly sold out show that was just full of like kind of the opposite of that mentality, kind of like knowing that something was coming up or something might be happening. So instead, let's all, you know, kind of find a way to
come together one last time.
Totally. Yeah, it felt like that. And I mean, you felt the energy in the air. I mean, we were all in the room together. It was just like, if, you know, the community, it was all like, you know, like, this is like, I guess it, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, that again, you could feel it, you know, it's like the calm before the storm or whatever. Like, there's just that weird energy in the air, but it really it was kind of it was just an awesome show because of it. I mean, it was I guess, yeah, just talking to everyone, the energy, everything was just.
I think a lot of it too. And on top of that, for us personally, or at least for me personally, that was kind of an outlet of a lot of things that we've been doing, not necessarily rushing, but we've been kind of hitting the road hard and hitting everything really hard from once we started, you know, getting really serious and into it. Like you said, recording that first demo, to doing 2 different weekend tours with a couple local bands. And we had just done a little weekend tour a week before that show, recording a full week isolated, you know, by ourselves. So there was a lot of things going on within ourselves in our heads or whatever, being concerned about what all this is going to come to, and work and family and friends. So there's a lot of emotions built up, and not just for me, I'm assuming with a lot of people dealing with a lot of those same things. So it's kind of the best way to release all that for me has always been to play live. And I think every single band like was kind of feeling the same kind of like energy of like, we need to let out so much right now. And it just happened to be all like kind of joy and love for being a heavy, you know, dark, heavy bands.
It was fucking beautiful though. It was absolutely beautiful.
We even messaged each other like the next day.
Yeah.
Just literally speaking about how beautiful and joyful it was to be in there.
Yeah. It completely was. We're running down relative to time. So here's what I want to do. We know that basically it seemed like within a day or two of that show.
Yeah.
that's when things started closing down, right?
Yeah.
And you know what? I look back on it now, and I'm fucking glad that I live on the West Coast where they did shut shit down. Because having family and friends on the East Coast where they kept things open and they just kind of, hey, let's go see. But I don't want to get. I've given my personal opinions on too many of these videos already. So that shit descends. Is there anything in particular that any one of you want to say just about how this really unique experience has been for you, or how it's touched you? I just want to give you all a chance to say anything relative to COVID if you want to, and then we can kind of move into that idea of where we go from here to try to guarantee deathCAVE world fucking domination.
Yeah, Benny.
I got something about COVID that they need to kind of get off their chest or talk about, or just kind of keep it real around this from their perspective.
I don't really have much to say. I just want to rock again, man. Like
yes.
it really sucks. Like I'm still working. I still leave my house. My life hasn't changed that much other than I can't play music anymore. And I've always known that music was a huge part of my life, but you just don't really know how much it affects you to be able to meet up with your friends and play shows, just have a good time until it's gone.
Hang on a second. Can anyone sing "Don't Know What You Got Until It's Gone" for me? Don't know what you got. Come on, nobody. Fuck you. I'm talking to 3 musicians, and you leave me fucking hanging. God.
No comment.
I just play drums, man.
So Benny brought us around to something to look forward to. How about you, Freiburger?
I was just gonna say, both me and Benny, we're bartenders and stuff. So this is affecting both of us doubly, to where not only do we not have our music to have, but we are also the bars and everything, and it'll be a while for all of that. So I've never really known time like this since I was young in Alaska in the winter as a kid. Like, it's crazy to have all this time to just by yourself, and when you're so used to a community and an environment, it gives you time to do things you have always wanted to, but at the same time, it's while battling crippling depression, because everything that you're passionate about all of a sudden is no longer a constant thing in your life.
Yeah.
It can be a real double-edged sword. I've noticed a lot of people are struggling right now because of the inherently isolating nature of what we're going through. I'm sorry, Tony, I interrupted you. Go ahead. No.
I was going to basically exactly what you said. And, I don't really have think one side is more correct than the other, but, it's nice to see a lot of people posting about and saying, use this time to bring up any energy you have into creativity, into writing, into making art. But I also want to say that if you're stuck and can't do that because of whatever, like mental health issues or anything, and dealing with isolation, then I think that's okay too. As long as you find a way to maybe reach out, or, talk to a friend, or figure something out to keep you moving forward, even if it means not creating or doing the things that you normally do when you have a regular life. And again, not that one's more correct than the other, because I also enjoy creating in times like this as well. But I just want everybody to know that, or to think that it's still okay to, struggle during these times. And this is the first time a lot of us have ever dealt with this type of situation. So who knows what is right or wrong at this time? It's just, you deal with it one day at a time.
And I think the best thing that we can do is reach out to each other, and just do the periodic check-in, and just,
we've been working this whole time on just getting our album ready. Because we do that with texts and via phone calls, so just layouts, mastering, prepping the artwork.
So this is a great, and even talk about that. This is a great bridge right here. Let's wrap up by talking about where's deathCAVE going from here. All right, given just the bizarre fucking times, again, turn the floor over to you guys. Where's deathCAVE
Okay.
going?
Go for it,
I'll
Fry.
just say real quick. So we had a big few months of time off, but so the only things we've really had to postpone are Northwest Starfest, which is still going to happen just next year, and then we were going to do a full U.S. tour in support of our upcoming album, which we just figured out today that even in fall, if shows are happening, trying to do a U.S. tour is just not going to work. You know, state to state, everything's different. Who knows what anything's like? It just seems like way too much of a hassle. Would rather wait until there's kind of more of an idea of how to approach this thing, you know, safely and securely, instead of just risking it or trying to just guess a date on when we're doing stuff. You know, instead we're just going to focus all of our energy on the album. And again, because of COVID, you know, we were shopping around as much as we could to release this with a label. We've decided to put it out on our own label, which is Satanic Royalty Records, which we put our first record out on, or our tape out on as well.
I noticed some recent social media presence by that record label.
Yeah,
perhaps they're getting ready for a release.
Just a little bit of awareness around it. That all. I'm not trying to like grow it into something huge or anything. We just have a lot of time to
You're doing the exact right thing, my friend.
Yeah, making faces on this. Again, this is our label, deathCAVE. You know, we own this equally parts. You know, we are running this the best we can. So we're gonna put this out on our own label, since it's not exactly an easy time to find a new partnership with a label when there's so much uncertainty in the music industry to ask someone to put a bunch of money into making you a record. So we'll be putting this record out ourselves.
Same date, hopefully, still for release.
What's that?
Are we still hoping for the release date to be?
Absolutely. We're still shooting for August. I think 13th, Friday the 3rd, or I think it's Friday the 13th, or Friday the
mid-August.
Yeah. How about this? I'll make sure. I'll check a calendar and I'll make sure to put that in the descriptions.
Totally.
Yeah, another thing I want to put in the descriptions is where the fuck are people going to be able to make sure to find this?
And so you're able to find us. We have our Bandcamp is deathcave.bandcamp.com. You're able to find us on Instagram, deathcave_. You can find us on Facebook, on Twitter, YouTube.
We're everywhere.
Yeah, I think, and then Spotify, iTunes, all that stuff.
Yeah, Spotify. We're on our
deathCAVE.
You guys heard about MySpace?
I thought I was still had a friend, actually.
I'm gonna put links.
We put up a picture of deathCAVE on Hot or Not. Our ratings yet,
I'm going to make sure to put links to all of those social media sites and the Bandcamp in the description here. So for anyone watching the video, if you just want to kind of easily connect with deathCAVE, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say one last little tidbit that,
please.
And like I said, this is like just the beginning of us trying to like push this out. We're going to slowly release it. We'll release a couple singles and we'll push hard to let everyone know when those are coming out. And just a little shout out to everyone. We just put stuff on our Bandcamp, some merchandise online, and it sold pretty well since we had put it on. So I just want to give a shout out to everyone who has been supporting music and bands through this. You know, there's another day, I believe it's upcoming Friday, where Bandcamp is waiving their take on fees. So 100% of royalties will be going to bands. You know, support music when you can, you know, if you have a means, like, this is dark times for everyone, you know, but don't forget about art, you know, it's important, you know, it's what's keeping us kind of sane through these incredibly dark times. So if you can, don't forget to reach out, you know, and reach out to your friends, especially like Tony was saying, if you have friends that, you know, have a little bit of mental health issues or can get a little dark, and especially if they hold themselves away and get quiet in these times, you know, don't forget to reach out and, you know, be a pal. Is our heart on everyone, you know.
Absolutely.
I don't think there's a better way to end one of these than a message like that, Freiburger.
Yeah.
So here's what I want to do. I just want to thank all three of you, Tony, Freiburger, and James. These are the three members of what, in my opinion, is I'll just be straight up, one of my top 3 bands right now in Seattle. These
Thank
guys are one of those top
Thank
3.
you very much.
Fucking incredible. So get out there, hit the links and check them out. They're fucking insane. So
Thank you.
Be safe, guys. I'm thinking of all 3 of you, and I'll see you in the pits at some fucking point.
All right.
Totally.
All
Thanks
right.
for having us, man.
Of course. Jesus Christ. Thanks for coming on. I'll talk to you later.
Thanks, y'all.
There we go. I'm going to end right there. Thank you, Freiburger. I'll fade out on that move.
All right.
All right. I'll stop recording.